One thing I want to set up for people when you then come back and you play in Veslin's team again, but now it's the one called Adrenaline, right? This was a really interesting setup because if people don't know, in the meantime, the Esports United team became Team 9, is what they're called, obviously named after the famous cafe in Stockholm. And they went to all these tournaments and they had success. They won the Esports World Cup and they were second to Heaton and Potty's SK and the CPLs in America. And they were having an amazing time. But then the reason they made this Adrenaline squad was Veslin, because again, he was just a guy who was always thinking out the box. He came along with this idea where he got this American LAN cafe, GamerX, to sponsor through all these companies this new team. And the premise would be, it's quite a clever idea if you think about it. Instead of having to go from Sweden, and back then travel was way more expensive, they didn't want the same budgets. So instead of traveling and being there and being like, oh, we're all jet lagged, like, oh, you know, hope we win the first easy games and get through so we can like get customized. His idea was, why don't we just live in America? If we live there, we practice in this LAN cafe, then when we go to the tournaments, we'll be the best. Like, because he was always looking for an edge. That's what I loved about him. Even if he didn't have like Keaton and Potty or whatever, he was always trying to find some way he was going to like get ahead of them, whether it was tactics, nerding out. So in this sense, right, it made it weird because even though he had the second best team in the world, he essentially had to like rebuild it because obviously some people, like I think Executor initially wasn't going to do this. He was staying in Sweden for some period. And I know some of the other Swedes like actually never went to Dallas. I think the logic was like, he had to move to America for 3 months or something. You had to go there for like a serious period of time. It wasn't just going for a week like normal. So some people went out of the lineup and then they rebuilt it in. So I remember, because I was friends with him, he was telling me the names he was going through. And he was like, yeah, and I'm going to bring in Notorious. And I was like, I mean, he was good back in the day, but wasn't that like years ago? He hasn't even been playing the game. And this is why I know, even though you think you had a mediocre career, Veslin told me at that time, and at the time I thought he was overselling it. He goes like, yeah, but he's a LAN player. Like, you don't understand. When we get to the LANs and like the actual tournament, he'll be good then. Just trust me. And at the time I was thinking like, oh, come on, man. Like, that's like some old school shit. You know, it was years ago. Like the game's changed. You know, like you say, everyone's practicing. At the time, if you're not in the top team, you better be in like the second and third and fourth teams and working your way up. So at the time I thought, what a big gamble he's taken. But obviously, like, you guys had success again. You were still a very good team. You were a good player. So were you able to just pick the game back up again when you went there?
I would say yes and no. I never became the player I was. Like, I felt it right away. I thought I like didn't play at all for 10 months. So I didn't touch the game, basically. I was just home at like when you are in the military, you're just home at like every second weekend or something, and then you want to party and meet your friends.
Sure.
And so probably not playing more than like 10 hours in 10 months if I'm gonna just put a number out there. So it was quite interesting when he asked me, but the opportunity was like it was the coolest thing, right? Like,
this was a way more salaries and stuff and like proper, yeah.
Like before that, I wouldn't say that we were professional Counter-Strike players. We were semi-professional because you couldn't live out of it. Live from playing, basically, if you didn't win like everything. But no one did that at the time. But I think we were the first one that actually we got the apartment paid, we got the car, we got the food, and then I think we got like $1,500 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was actually like now we are professional. We can live out of playing Counter-Strike. And I know that I was tired of the military as well. I actually had like a 15-month stay in. I should be there for 15 months before I actually was done. But I know that we tried. We made a letter about like you have the potential, because in Sweden you can be like a talent in sports, and like if you have that talent, you get like. You can get out of the military when you.
So you had to explain that you're really good at Counter-Strike, and they let you out of the military. That's a pretty cool story in itself. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that the manager then, I don't know if it was Veslan or I think it was someone else that actually wrote it, or maybe Veslan wrote it, but we signed it with our manager for the team, and we said they sent it to the military, and I was sitting there explaining like the potential and what this could lead to, and they like from looking quite like, oh, what is this bullshit, to like, wow, that is.
They thought it was an
cool.
excuse or something initially.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't know if they just tried to like, because I know that it took a week or something, and they're like, yeah, you can go, like, really good luck with this.
Okay.
Like so they actually went for it, and I was like, so cool. And I know it was in November, I think, and it was like the first day of the snow. And I know like the next day, all my military friends was going out in the woods and setting up tents and like stayed there for 2 weeks or something. I was like go like the first step towards the flight to LA and live there for 3 months and getting paid for playing Counter-Strike. It was such a cool moment. I remember.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.